The virtual rainbow brings together LGBTQ+ youth and their families, community leaders, professionals, and healthcare providers to learn and celebrate diversity and inclusion. Thank you for joining, everyone, and welcome. Very happy to welcome our next speaker from right here at Montana State University in Bozeman. Happy to welcome Dan Sandberg. Dan is the Assistant Director of the Outdoor Recreation Program. Dan, you go ahead and share whatever content you'd like to, and go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, really excited to be a part of this, y'all, and thanks for being with me here today. So we've got a chat that we can add some things into, and I'm going to ask for some participation throughout here. And so I'm going to send us a chat right now and see if we can get some folks to respond. So I'm going to read it out as I write here as well, in case folks have any accessibility needs. So what is your favorite way to recreate outdoors? And just go ahead and respond right back to that chat. We should be all able to see that. Thanks, Jonathan. Hi, Julia. Nice. So as folks respond back in there, I'll just tell you all a little bit about myself and what I do here at Montana State University. So again, as Paul said, my name's Dan Sandberg, and I'm the Assistant Director at our Outdoor Recreation Program at Montana State University. So what that means is that I do a lot of our programs for students that come to Montana State University looking to get into the outdoors or to learn new ways to experience the outdoors. And I take my role really seriously in terms of providing access. So oftentimes what that looks like is teaching folks that are interested new skills to be able to access the outdoors, providing transportation, providing mentorship for folks to be able to access and learn a new sport or activity. So we've got a few responses here, and I'm enjoying some diversity in our ways to access the outdoors. We have hiking and taking nature walks, hike, camp, and fish, skiing, kayaking, paddleboarding, skiing, kayaking, hiking. So skiing is a very big one at Montana State University. Obviously, a lot of folks end up coming here for that reason, but there's all sorts of reasons to come to MSU. And my goal in this presentation is to get people excited about the outdoors and what that might look like at MSU or what that might look like wherever you all are coming from. So my next question is, what barriers do you perceive to accessing the outdoors? And this is a question for absolutely everybody of any background, identity group. We all have most likely some sort of barrier that we might feel that might keep us from accessing the outdoors. So I'm just gonna let that sit for a second and let's see what sort of responses we get. Nice, and I'll kind of read some of these as they come in. We've got travel ability, time, money, acceptance, money, time. Jonathan says time, which is not lacking now. So nice work on that, Jonathan. So these are a lot of common barriers that folks will come up against. And I think one of the most exciting things that the outdoor industry has offered in the last, I don't know, about 10 years that I've seen it in my career, is trying to get at reducing some of those barriers. And, the reason that I'm here today is to talk about what some of those barriers might look like and how to bypass or reduce those for the LGBTQ plus community. So anybody else have any barriers that they're feeling they want to jump in and add? And I'll just confirm and back you all up that these are some of the big ones that come out when this is confirmed in the research. So folks that are doing research on this issue and confirming and asking folks what is keeping them from the outdoors, these are all the big ones. So travel, time, and ability, money, acceptance or a feeling of community, experience or the lack of mentorship. I think that's a big one here. So one of the things that I've done, and I'm going to go ahead and share a file here as well, and then I'm going to share a video, and then we'll have a little bit of time for some conversation and some question and answer. I'm going to share a file that I put together of some of the folks that I'm inspired by in the LGBT community right now on both a national and a regional level. So you should be seeing a file come through. It's titled LGBTQ Resources. And you also should be able, and maybe Paul, you can help with this, should be able to download this file either during or after this presentation and be able to engage with this on your own time. But on the top, I have, and this is a short list of many folks out there that are doing inspiring work and working to reduce barriers to LGBTQ participation in the outdoors in their own way. But I have some of the folks that I'm using as inspiration. Patagonia, we'll watch a short video by Patty here in a second. Nikki Smith is a climber that lives in the Salt Lake City area and is transgender. Chris Mosier is a triathlete who'll be participating in the Olympics when they are rescheduled next year, and is the first transgender athlete to do so and participate in his current gender. Micah Meyer visited MSU last year as a great advocate for getting LGBTQ youth into the national parks, and super inspiring trip. And it was a wonderful presentation at MSU last year. And then we have just a couple of other resources. REI is a major retailer that's putting a lot of effort and energy into raising the voice and the platform of LGBTQ folks. And so here is a great link, and they've also produced a lot of videos and are supporting Patagonia and a number of other athletes and folks in the outdoor industry. And then Unlikely Hikers, I throw that in there. They're just a super fun Instagram account to follow and post a lot of content about all sorts of important issues, including LGBTQ folks in the outdoors. And then the rest of the screen, you'll see just a ton of different resources. Some of the big ones are just a couple of different, there's the LGBTQ Outdoor Summit, which I'm hoping that they are going to run again this year. It was super successful last year in Estes Park, Colorado. You'll notice all sorts of different links to some of the programs, the big ones nationally, Out There Adventures and the Venture Out Project, and then some smaller ones that are focused on more regional areas. So some bike exploration groups, the Queer Bike Gang in the Twin Cities. This Homo Climbtastic is a queer climbing event over in West Virginia. Some skiing. So I'm trying to put together a guide for a bunch of different outdoor activities that we all listed: hiking and climbing and camping, to be able to reach some inspiration from these folks. And then down here at the bottom, in terms of experiences, I've got some regional events for folks. This is kind of youth focused, as I was anticipating a lot of folks in this event, in this talk, being kind of youth in the community. And so there's some amazing options for this summer specifically. These are all upcoming events. Some camping events. There is a volunteer project week in Yellowstone that I think would be a really amazing way to connect and empower LGBTQ youth to meet and work together in Yellowstone. And then Outward Bound, this Yosemite backpacking trip, is something that Outward Bound put together a few years ago, and it has been super, super successful. And then down at the very bottom, there's some programs. I'm going to share my screen here in a second to show you what we've got going on here at MSU, both in the Queer Frontier program, which is specifically focused on LGBTQ youth at MSU. And we do that in collaboration with the Diversity and Inclusion Student Commons, the DISC office here on campus. And then we also have a number of events that are open to both women and members of the LGBTQ community. And those are what we call our women and queer events. And we have ice climbing events and rock climbing at our climbing wall. And then we've also put on some rafting and hiking events that are specifically for members of those communities, and trying to create an accessible space for folks that may not be as open or find a general admission course or trip as accessible. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here with y'all. And we're going to watch a short video by Patagonia. But I absolutely have been finding a ton of inspiration in Patagonia, and that film is just a short section of, and a short snapshot of the work that Patagonia is doing. So that's a man named Win, whose drag character and drag persona is Patagonia, and just doing a lot for the environment, and also has I think now up to almost 1 million followers on Instagram. So something that is really raising awareness of LGBTQ folks in the outdoors, and doing it with a lot of fun and excitement around it. So last thing I want to just share is what we're doing here at the outdoor program. So we have in our program a number of different options, and specifically our program focuses on programs that are catering to students, faculty, and staff. But one of those trips is these Queer Frontier programs. So this past year we did a winter retreat, and it was cross-country skiing and team building, community building for the LGBTQ community. And again, that was in collaboration with the Diversity and Inclusion Student Commons. And then this is what I mentioned earlier, some of our women and queer programming. So we had 2 actually this year, ice climbing days, and then we've been doing a number of different day trips and clinics as well. So I wanted to open it up and kind of close out this session by asking you all what sort of questions that you have, or what experiences that you want to share about accessing the outdoors, what you'd like to see being done differently. So this can be a little bit of a call to action for what you'd like to see from somebody in my position, And then also, how are you accessing the outdoors amidst COVID-19, and kind of end this on a positive note. So I guess we'll start with the first question there, like any stories about or any other great resources that we should add to this list that people have come across on their own. Or any questions for me about what sort of programs that we have to offer at Montana State University or in Montana in general.
Dan, while we're waiting, let me just ask you a quick question. The programs up at MSU, are they open to any high school youth or any middle school youth, or do you have plans to maybe do some programs for younger people?
Thanks, Deb, for the question. Yeah, so our main mission is to serve Montana State University students, faculty, and staff, and as well as alumni. And so we do not specifically do programs for high school youth, but we can and will support those programs when we have the capacity to do so. So I'm really excited and would love to be a part of the growth of those programs in Montana. There are some already and some that are continuing to grow and expand. And there's lots of room for more and more programs like that. So we don't have a specific program for high school students is the short answer for that, Deb. So we have a couple of questions here. And then Deb, did you have any follow-up on that?
No, thanks, Dan. That was great.
So Julia has a question here. I have a trans son. He has been looking for a group to participate with. Do you have a group specifically trans that I could tell him about? So Julia, what I would say is to look over some of those resources. There are specifically some youth summer camps, and there's a whole list of youth summer camps nationally. And there are some that are specifically for transgender youth. And I think that might be a really powerful group to participate with. There are unfortunately none in Montana that I found specifically. And if anybody else knows of any, I'd love to know about those. So the Queer Straight Alliance at MSU is super trans friendly. I have a number of friends that are trans that participate in that group and are feel very welcomed in that community. But in terms of summer camps or other programs, I think some of the ones on that list would be really powerful. And then Aaron, let's see. Nice. So for folks that are seeing Aaron's comment, just like to say that this was a great presentation. As someone who grew up in the outdoors, you don't tend to think about having barriers. I think this is very important, particularly as a 4-H coordinator, for knowledge of these groups to get out. And yeah, Aaron, I would say if you are a leader in the outdoors and you want to access, there's a ton of research out there that I'm happy to share and get my contact info from Paul or from me. Afterwards, I can send you some of the research that's being done on what those barriers to the outdoors are and how we as outdoor leaders can intentionally break them down. So that's a big part of what I believe that my role can be at MSU for folks. So I think one of the last things I want to just discuss is what sort of call to action. So what would make you or your children or your families or anyone feel more comfortable in the outdoors? What can we as an industry, what can I do in my role to make folks feel more comfortable getting into the outdoors and learning a new sport or activity? I want to learn from you all. And just think about if you were trying to get into something new, what would you What would you like, or what would you need? Nice. Tiffany, I think we'll definitely be able to make this document accessible, as well as I believe Paul is recording. So we'll have this available as a resource afterwards. And then Julia, that's a great note, just to promote inclusivity, more marketing for inclusion. It's a really good point, and I think that's something that the outdoor industry has struggled with. It's starting to get better, and one of the things that I'm so excited about is REI getting on board with promoting inclusivity in a lot of their programs, and they have really gone out on a limb to do that in a way that's really coming back around for them in a great positive way. So I know that we can do that a little bit more on our programming for sure. So huge point there. And availability and access to equipment, Barbara, I think that's a great point as well. So these meetup groups, Facebook groups, Venture Out Project, those always have access to equipment as part of that to reduce any financial barriers, and as do our programs at MSU. And that program for the Venture Out Project in Yellowstone would also include all the equipment.